So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create expressions and how we data bind in AngularJS. So what are expressions? Expressions essentially allow us to bind data to HTML. What is data binding in Angular? Well, data binding essentially just tells Angular how to connect the view data to the model data. So let's go ahead and see how expressions come into play in our code and what exactly they can do. So I've prepared a little example so far here in our index file showing some things that expressions can do. So the way we create an expression is, we have a double curly bracket and then a closed curly bracket. And whatever's inside this is our expression. So these curly brackets essentially tell Angular that is an expression and it needs to be evaluated. So whatever's inside, Angular looks at it and says, okay, what do I evaluate this to? Well, we could do simple operations like, multiplication, division, addition and subtraction. We could also do some concatenation, which we're showing. So as you're seeing, 2 plus 2 here in our expression is evaluated to 4 when we actually have it on our web page. Thomas plus space plus Brown is now evaluated to Thomas Brown. And finally, this tutorial object.bind output, if we go to our controller where it's looking, you'll notice that everything in the body is controlled by this controller. We've actually created this tutorial object with a few variables inside, and that bind output is 2. So Angular looks at tutorial object.bind output and it evaluates it to 2. Great. So now let's actually just create a few more just so we can get this hammered home. So I'm going to notice that I have, those two variables, title and subtitle. I'm just going to implement them inside. So I'm going to say h1, and I'm going to, as we've, stated, create my curly braces, and then I'm going to say tutorial object dot title. And now if I save, and now I'm going to create a second one. Once again, curly braces, tutorial object dot subtitle. Actually, I think I need to, so this should work. I actually misspelled it here. Cool. So now if we did everything right and I refresh the page, we should have both expressions evaluated. And as you've noticed, they are, right? Main page and subtitle. Great. So data binding. The great thing about data binding is that because our view data is actually bound to our model data, we don't have to go out and grab our DOM whenever we update it, manipulate it in code and then repost it. It all is done automatically now. That's part of the magic of Angular. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to create a simple button and then I'm going to use an ng-click directive. Don't worry too much about, what a directive is just yet. Essentially, it just allows us to link a function to this. I'm going to say, times 2 is going to be my function name. And then I'm going to say multiply here. Great. So I haven't defined times 2 yet, but I'm going to in my controller. So I'm going to go to my controller and I'm going to say, scope dot times 2 is equal to function. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to grab scope dot tutorial object dot bind output, and I'm going to just times that by 2. Cool. So now I have defined the times 2 function. So essentially every time I click on this multiply button or on that multiply button on the side, this 2 should now be updated. And you'll notice it is. I no longer have to grab, repost, all that. It's just since they're bound, it automatically updates it. So that's the magic of binding and expressions. I hope you all learned something, and I'll see you in the next video.